Hey man, it's Dukes and Bell. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Last night, Hawks lose to the T-Wolves, but Mike, it felt like fisticuffs across the league last night as guys were,
Bruh.
getting hot tempers and going at each other. Obviously, what went down in Charlotte with Detroit, we'll talk about on the show today. Starting at 2, by the way, we also have our buddy Brett Siegel stopping by to talk NBA. We'll get his thoughts on all of this. The Hawks also had a little mix-up last night. By the way, Nas Reed is a big dude, man. I don't know if I want to be grabbing on Nas Reed, Mike. I mean, Mo Gay and Nas kind of got into it. Luckily, no punches thrown, but tempers did flare.
Right. It is kind of funny because the NBA is always like, yeah, let me at him. And, look, malice at the palace is one thing. That's where punches are actually thrown and delivered, but it's rare that you see no one's going to go Rudy Tomjanovich and Kermit Washington, okay? It's just kind of like, yeah, man, I'm right here. It's almost like when guys in soccer go and they're like right in each other's face, but no punches are ever thrown. But it was pretty wild with Charlotte and D.C. There was definitely some juice going right there. See, I like that, though. I like a little spark. I know it's in hockey, it's usually talk about energy. Sometimes you feed off that. Last night, there was just no help in the Hawks because they were just dead water. No Jalen Johnson, no Dyson Daniels. They actually believe it or not, they actually won the rebounding battle last night, but it didn't matter. They got this.
Anthony Edwards, 30 points. He had 20, I think, in the first half or so.
McCollum was like, hey, this is my dream night. I can take every shot. And he did.
Yeah, he did. So true. It's true. They got a big game. And I say that because, first of all, we still don't have Kuminga. Charlotte's going to have, some of their guys are going to be suspended. We know that. That's going to come down. But they play at Charlotte on Wednesday. But Dede, what'd you think? And again, look, this Hawks team, at least this version of this Hawks team, is not physical. All right, we know that. The defensively, this is not that version. Maybe we'll get there. So to see Mo Gay kind of step up last night and say, hey, Nas, I know you're bigger than I am, but I'm not going to take this, was cool. Right. But what'd you make of it in the loss last night? Because I didn't feel like once we realized Jalen wasn't playing, I'm with Mike. I was like, this is a wrap.
Yeah, same. Once once you knew Jalen and Dyson weren't playing, it was just kind of like, okay, let's see how competitive that some of these other guys can be, and from a contribution, we saw the first start for Asa Newell, and then like you said, CJ had he started as well and had a phenomenal game. But it wasn't surprising. I mean, I actually listened to most of it on the radio because I went to see a girls basketball game, and once it got to the point where Steve was like, "Well, they're down," I think they might have been down like almost 30. He's like, "And you still got 8 minutes to go in the third quarter."
It happened fast, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, as expected. So, but you guys had a great conversation with Onsi Saleh yesterday, guys, in regards to them being really confident in what they're doing, in the direction that they're going, in regards to being future focused is how he put it, and working with these young guys. And I thought it was very telling. He said, look, once we realized it got to the point that, things just weren't going to work anymore with Trey at this point, in his career with this franchise, it was just time. And those young guys started to show what their potential could be, that it was just time for them to go ahead and focus on that potential. And like he said, all those draft assets, I know you guys hate it. But all the draft assets, you just keep adding to this youth. There's going to be pieces that get moved around. Maybe you bring in someone a little, over the next couple of years. Maybe there is someone you trade for that's a little more seasoned, whatever the case may be. But I think you got to bank on the fact that Jalen, Zachary, and Dyson, possibly those are the guys that they're going to continue to kind of try to formulate this team around.
Yeah, and before you comment, I will say this: unlike how I view the Hawks, Detroit has a couple of shit starters. They got a couple of guys that are always in the mix, always looking to kind of punch somebody in the belly and see what happens. So I wasn't surprised as that played out in Charlotte last night. Were you surprised what happened with our team last night,
Nah, just you want to see that fight and that fire every once in a while. I mean, even in a game where you're getting kind of beat up and beat down and the score is what it is last night, if you feel like somebody did something they shouldn't have done, then hey, buck up. JB Bickerstaff last night after that Pistons Hornets game said in his post game, he talked about how I'm not for all that stuff happening on the court, but I also tell my guys, hey, if someone throws a punch at you, defend yourself. I will always back you if something like that on the court happens. So I don't think Quinn wants that to be the case where guys are out there fighting, but I don't think he also wants a guy to sit out there and not defend himself either if something else happens too. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah, man. All right, Mike, what did you think about Onsi yesterday? What stood out to you with the Onsi Saleh conversation?
Yeah, because I questioned about first of Reece Shea. He kind of, he said first of don't think about Kuminga cutting into his minutes. Well, I mean, Reece Shea can't get minutes even without everybody hurt last night. I looked at it earlier. I think his minutes were only about like 19 or 21 or something. But I just don't know what Reece Shea is right now in the half court. We know he's a better defender. I talked about defense. He said their problem was offense. They're the third best offense in the Eastern Conference on average. So I don't know. And I asked about Quinn Snyder. Are you getting what you want from him? And he talked about how well he's doing developing Okongwu. And again, that's funny because old school fans are like, enough with the big guy shooting the three, but that's, the way the league is going. Like, I don't know what to make of it because they turned over the roster, as Onsi pointed out. They wanted to get Trey off the roster. It wasn't going anywhere, and that's fine. But when is it fair to now have expectations about this team doing something? And that's something Damien and I have debated this season. I get it. I mean, direction-wise, you want to position yourself like Oklahoma City, but how long is that going to take? But we are going to have some new faces coming with the draft. And I think there'll be some buzz in June for the draft for sure, though.
Yeah, I do too, because we're going to have a couple of top draft picks. It is Dukes and Bell, guys, behind the curtain. Thanks for being here. However you're accessing this show, Twitch, YouTube, Insta Live, whatever you're doing, man. Thanks for hanging out. And make sure you're there at 2 o'clock today on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Mike, that's a really good question, because here's what you're saying, or at least what I think they're telling us. We can't judge Quinn yet. That's what they're telling us.
Yeah.
We're young. We're going to be young.
Right.
And because of it, Day, we can't quite judge Quinn yet. So don't get upset with Coach Quinn. And look, we've been critical in the sense of, is this getting better, right? That's really what we're asking. This isn't about whether we think he's a good coach. They're paying him $5-6 million a year, whatever it is. They think he's a good coach. We're saying, is this getting better? And when we hear the general manager tell us, all right, guys, we're young, and we're going to be even younger next year.
Right.
Okay, so when are we judging Quinn? Like, at what point does that happen? And I think that is what bugs you, Mike, is because if we are critical, what they're going to say is we're young.
Right.
I don't like
we're
that.
building.
Yes, you can't build and develop and be good. You have to either be good, and that process has already happened, or you're building and developing. Mm-hmm. And if you're building and developing as a coach, I hate to say it, Hawks fans, whether you like Quinn or not, or you think he's doing a great job, and some people feel like his development stuff has been really good, and you see that with Dyson, or maybe even to Mike's point about Double O, Onyeka. But the reality is they're in no rush to move on because of that. And Mike, that's the reality of where we are, bro.
And just real quick, guys, before you sound off, like I said, I was talking about Mike Malone. They're not doing that. They're committed to Quinn Snyder. So, like anything else, I'll bellyache and I'll bitch and moan about stuff, but if it ain't happening, there's no point in it. It's kind of like with Stefanski. I wanted Kubiak and Stefanski. We're rolling with Stefanski. Now we find out he might be the guy. So, all right, then if and when we get things rolling, by the time they get things rolling, Quinn will be up for a contract extension.
Yeah, really? Right, exactly.
All right, I guess that's there is the script. We got to roll with it.
All right, man. More on that today as we talk to our buddy again, Brett Siegel, who's going to join us to talk NBA. All right, pitchers and catchers started to report yesterday. Look, spring training is upon us. Is there anything, guys, that you're excited about with this upcoming Braves season? By the way, opening day is against the Royals. I think it's like March 27th or something like that, somewhere at the end of the month of March, which is a little bit earlier than normal. It's usually April. Either way, Mike, what are you excited about with the Braves upcoming season?
I'm excited if they would sign another starting pitcher, but that's that's not happening. They're doing it on a budget, guys. Now they brought in Robert Suarez. I'm really excited. I want him to be the closer. I was told by Alex Anthopoulos he's not the closer, even though he's got more electric stuff than Iglesias at this point. Maybe that will change. But they got the back end of the bullpen fixed. Yastrzemski is going to platoon. You got Dubon. I'm looking at the list of guys they added. Unfortunately, Kim's going to be banged up. You won't see Murphy till mid-May. And then you're relying on Schwellenbach. So what am I hoping for? I'm hoping for all the young pitchers that were injured come back healthy, and that, Spencer Strider gets back to being that elite guy. We're really excited, certainly about, some of the young pitchers. They got some really big time studs. And look, Holston Waldrop is going to be a guy I'm hoping this guy you hope you go to see when you have tickets for a homestand. So I'm excited about the young pitching. And also Jurickson Profar. We'll get him for a whole full season.
That's true.
and Ronald. So I know his name was Mud last year because of the suspension, but maybe Jurickson and Ronald and the platoon situation will be pretty tight in the outfield.
Yeah, he hit when he got in the lineup finally and got settled. He was hitting at the end of the year. There's no doubt. Dede, what are you excited about with the Braves' upcoming season?
I don't think I have one thing particular that I'm excited about, but I am just, I don't know, just as a fan, I'm kind of nervous because, I just want to see all these guys who kind of had their struggles last year, whether it was Ozzie, Michael Harris. I just want to see these guys be able to have bounce back seasons and contribute in a way that this team is back where they should be. I know there's a lot of early projections out there that believe the Braves should be right back in the hunt for the right back in the postseason race and in the race for the division title. So for me, I just I'm just really hoping that these guys bounce back. To your point about Jurickson Profar, can he have a full complete season? And then the arms. I mean, more importantly than anything, like can the arms can we have a full season of healthy pitching, but not only that, can we have a full season of everything? Because then remember, the biggest thing last year was, in addition to the injuries, it was like when we struggled at the plate, we were getting good pitching. Then when the pitching started, we started having issues with pitching. The plate was doing well, nothing was linear. So can we get everything in sync this year for a full season or majority of a full season? So, it's not necessarily looking forward to anything. It's just like, fingers crossed, can everything line up and be what we're used to the Braves being?
Yeah, look, I don't know. We finished fourth last year. I don't know if we'll be a playoff team. It's easy for us to say because we're spoiled. Yeah, of course. They're built really well. I do like that Alex did some redundancy things. We talked about that with him because you got multiple guys that can play multiple positions for this fact. Like Kim being out to start the season, a platoon at short. What are you excited about, man? Is there anything you're excited about as we get spring training underway with pitchers and catchers?
Yeah, that it's a new year. Simply put, I mean, just turning the page on what was last year. There's still some holes on this team. Like, there's still a starter they have to add. And it looks like Chris Bassett, the guy from Toronto, is not going to end up here more than likely. So you're looking at Lucas Giolito maybe as being a guy that you can add to this rotation, which wouldn't be a bad thing. But literally, in the simplest way possible, like I'm just ready for it to be a new year and the excitement of the new year to come to get the stink and the stench of what happened last year away.
Yeah, it was. Walt Weiss takes over, guys, which, again, he's got managerial experience. I don't think this is going to look a lot different, but he will manage differently with how he handles players. And that I know from players who have been around him and who he has coached. So that is something that, as fans, we're not going to see on a daily basis, but it's going to be different. I mean, Walt Weiss is not – and this is not a knock on Snit. He's not Snit. He's a different dude. So, but we'll see how that goes, Mike. I'm excited about the development and continued development of Drake Baldwin. Stud. We said it going into last season, and I said, if this turns out the way I think it might, he might be the key to the season. Well, he did his part. Unfortunately, he didn't know the starting rotation was all going to be hurt, but the kid balled out. I want to see him continue to develop and become the best catcher in baseball. That is the ascension for Drake Baldwin. And then Michael Money Harris. Let's not have 3 or 4 months of what is going on with Money. We need him to be consistent at the plate. No one will question his defense. In fact, I think he's the best defensive center fielder in baseball. But the stick, man, that's my thing. So those two things I'm excited about seeing happen and how they're going to play out this season as we get spring training underway. All right, man.
I was going to say, Carl, just the home runs, and the more games, by the way, because, Austin Riley, you mentioned, we talked about Acuna. Austin Riley's got to stay healthy. He's got to give me 150 plus. Because that hasn't been there, and the average has been down the last few seasons. In the division, the Phillies, they made a trade for the Yankees for some pitching, but it's not like the Phillies and Mets, outspent us galactically. I mean, it's pretty much these teams, their players are on the field. The rosters are pretty much static. We talked about the Braves, adding some, small contracts. So I'm with you. To me, it all comes down to starting pitching. Will the Braves have enough starting pitching?
Yeah, and look, for Philly, man, as much as I like Bryce, I don't like playing against him, but I like the way he approaches things. Look, this window's closing for them. He was a guy that they signed and is a stud, but, the last few years, they got close, but they didn't get there. And then you feel like, I'm talking about, winning it. And then you feel like, okay, well, at what point is that window going to close for Philly? Because they've had a nucleus of guys that they felt really good about. Sort of like we did, between like 2019 all the way to like 23, either way, man, it's going to be a battle in this division. Real quick, any last thoughts as we get out of here, man, on James Pearce Jr.? It's still, Mike, it's still right here, man. It's just hovering.
Talked to an attorney friend of mine that's out in South Florida, and we were talking yesterday about what happened with Rashee Rice, because in a different situation. Yeah, racing is stupid. They're going to jam you up. He spent, I think, a month in jail over that. My buddy who's an attorney, he says there's no way Pierce doesn't do some form of jail time on this. And so
the cop charge itself carries a minimum of 5 years.
Correct.
Minimum.
And so he said the best you can do is a plea and hope for like a year and a half in the can. But again, he says unless there's new evidence you have not seen yet, and that's what his defense attorney is saying. But it'll have to be pretty impressive, because all the stuff we're hearing about, again, we haven't seen video of him actually smashing into his ex-girlfriend's car. But when you tussle with the cops like that, and you nearly run over a cop, you're going to go to jail.
So are you telling me? I know we're up against it. Maybe we'll get into this today on the show. Are you telling me that they're going to work around his NFL schedule for jail time?
No.
Hell no.
No. They did. I mean, look, Ruggs murder. A guy got killed in the Ruggs accident in Las Vegas, and and then even when you come out of jail, do you still want to engage with him as a team? Because there's the whole aspect of you're going to have to get the mental health aspect right and everything else. I don't see this guy playing for the Falcons again. I want him to, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, Mike, if that's the situation, and look, I hope not for the kid himself, but also for the organization and fan base. Yeah, you're not. You've got other options. If he's spending, and let's just say 6 months, okay, you're moving on. 3 months, you're moving on. Like you can't afford to spend that time and that equity into a player that hey, we can just turn the page and be done. We'll see, man. But yeah, it's just hovering, guys. It sucks. It's hovering right there. Hey, we'll be on today at 2:00, Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Make sure you join us. We'll talk plenty of NBA because of the Hawks last night, and also these brawls, and get into that. We also will get into a very interesting conversation about the Falcons, and it doesn't have to do with James Pearce Jr. Make sure you tune in today at 2:00. We'll talk to you then.